Commanders were facing a stiff challenge from the Tennessee Titans. Even though the Titans hadn't won many games, they had been looking good lately. So good that one of us thought the Titans would actually win the game. Before you knew it, it was 28-0.
I would like to say I am 14-1 picking games this week, so up yours for bringing up my one loss.
I'm 13-2.
All right.
So I'm not that far behind you.
Yeah, but you ain't going to catch me.
You know what we are in best bets? We're combined 0-5.
0-5? Wow.
And you have the Broncos tonight.
I have the Broncos tonight.
Go
so
Browns.
I'll win that and
go
and
Browns.
stomp you in the ground.
Go Browns.
Right.
All right. But still, that's the one game you got wrong. Just think you'd be perfect if you. Why did you think the Titans were going to beat the Commanders?
Well, there's this. I always look for what could that upset be? The Titans' defense so good. Right, I never thought the Commanders would run the ball on them the way they did starting the football game. Right, the Commanders played; they were just better from the start. They were physical; they were ready to play. It's like the Titans won that game last week, and they were still having a parade about it. Washington, of course, has had bad losses and was like, "No, we got to get back on track." And then Tennessee, the stupid, fumbles. They fumble a kick return. They did it all early on in the football game. And Washington, this was never really a contest.
But think about it. It's a long season, and you get a big win against a division rival.
Yeah.
It's Thanksgiving week.
That's right.
You exhale a little
fell
bit.
into the trap for
yeah.
sure.
And we're not going to make the playoffs. We got our win for the month, and the Commanders were desperate.
Yeah.
If the Commanders had lost yesterday, you got to start asking whether or not they even make the playoffs.
Right.
One of those second-place teams from the South or the West could maybe pick them off. So the Commanders desperately needed it. They blew them off the field and restored some hope, because it feels like they're getting in. It feels like after yesterday and the way that you see the sinking of the other divisions, I think the Commanders are going to hold on.
It's going to be Tampa Bay and what they do, right? Tampa Bay is going to be their competition as they go forward.
And Atlanta. Whoever is second place,
that other
Tampa Bay's got the tiebreaker.
I know.
Back to week one.
Right.
Okay. Let's talk about this. No hope needed to be restored in the Washington Commanders. If you lost hope in who they are and what they're building, then you never really had real belief in them to begin with. Because what the Commanders have done throughout this season has been awesome, and they are just already ahead of schedule. This year was never about making the playoffs and winning the division and getting to the Super Bowl. That's not what this year was about. People's expectations are just kind of so absurd. And no, I don't think the Titans fell into a trap with the Commanders. The Commanders are just a better team, okay? They are a legitimate, fully functioning NFL team with a great young rookie quarterback. This game was so awesome to see, honestly, right? Jayden Daniels was 25 for 30, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns, 114 rating, 1 touchdown. Touchdown run rushing. The team as a whole, obviously 45 carries for 267 yards, which was wild, 5.9 yards per carries. Some of these stats are crazy. 9 for 14 on third down. They had 29 first downs, 463 total yards, 40 minutes of time of possession, and they were 5 for 7 in the red zone. You had Robinson in there, Rodriguez. They were just killing it. McLaurin, obviously trying to get him involved. He had 8 targets for, 8 receptions on 8 targets, 73 yards and 2 touchdowns. So they obviously put a major emphasis on that. I'm pretty sure even in the broadcast they said something like that, because I think it was like the first play or one of the first plays, but they were like, oh yeah, getting it to McLaurin is intentional, and understandably and rightfully so, but it didn't feel like it was forced in a way that felt unnatural or inhibited the game plan, or that it was done in a way to be like, hey, we got to appease our wide receiver. You know what I mean? It was different. It was more intentional and thoughtful in a way of like, hey, we got to get him the ball, but it's got to be right, and it's because we want him to have the ball, not because he's like demanding the ball. And you can sense that. And again, all of those things matter to me personally. I just think that some of the plays that you saw Jayden Daniels execute, I talked about this with the Baltimore Ravens and the Lamar Jackson game, where I said, where are the play calls that enhance what Lamar Jackson can do, that can enhance his special, that take advantage of his special? And this game didn't have a ton of that because it didn't need to, which I'm going to talk about in a second as well. But there are a couple plays where he kind of does his kind of like fake rollout, designed run type play, Jayden Daniels. and then he has like the toss to McLaurin. It was in the fourth quarter, and I just think little plays like that you can take for granted. Honestly, you really can, because they seem so simple, and they're like trickery, but like, again, a lot of times when people think like trick plays, they think of all the fancies type stuff, right? Having a wide receiver throw the ball or things like that. But it's those little plays that just keep the defenses so much on their toes. Players love it, quarterbacks love it. Like, it just adds another layer, and it takes advantage of what makes Jayden Daniels special. His ability to kind of do all the things on the football field, right? He can run, he can jump, he's got the speed, he's got the agility, he can throw, he's got the accuracy. So it takes advantage of all of those things. It's a simple play, but there's some trickery involved, and the risk is essentially nothing. And it's just great. And again, you would watch that and think like, oh, teams should do stuff like this all the time, and they don't. They just don't. And so to see that, I just love to see that, and seeing how the Ravens played recently, it just highlights that even more, quite frankly. But what I loved about this game was not even that, honestly. It was the fact that, and I say this in the most positive way possible, Jayden Daniels just got to be a game manager and a system quarterback. For a long time, Jayden Daniels was kind of forced, and understandably so, to be the system. He was the system. They were relying on his gifts, on his touch, on his ability to throw guys open. His anticipation was just brilliant. I mean, he's made some such beautiful anticipatory throws that just make your jaw drop. And in this game, he did not need to do essentially any of that. He just was able to hit the open receivers. He just was able to hit the players. He hit 8 different receivers. Like, he was able to just call hike, drop back, 1, 2, throw. Hike, 1, 2, throw. I mean, and it was just smooth and in rhythm. And it didn't need to do anything more than that. He was actually throwing to open receivers, like truly open receivers, which he had not had in a while, quite frankly. So it was, and again, he was able to manage the game, and like the guy from NFL Live, oh god, I can't think of his name right now. He talked about that. Jayden Daniels is not only an elite playmaker, but an elite game manager. Game manager, unfortunately, has gotten such a bad rap, and it's so frustrating because it matters. And seeing him manage the game in that way was just great. And that to me was a breath of fresh air. And that was Cliff Kingsbury taking care of business. The Commanders obviously getting a little bit healthier, being able to run the ball. And it just makes everyone's life more easy. And when you do need Jayden Daniels to be a little special, when he's kind of doing his little juke run for the touchdown, I mean, I don't love it because it's still leaving him out to kind of, get his bell rung. But still, you can still obviously see the special. And again, like the little trickery that they had going on was just a really great balanced game plan. Great play designs, play calling, obviously relying heavy on the run because it was working. So why abandon it, but still allowing Jayden Daniels to be Jayden Daniels. And it was a return to form, and it was a welcome sight, and just an impressive win altogether. And yeah, I mean, this is definitely their playoff spot to lose. I think they're better than the Atlanta Falcons. I think they're better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think they're better than the Seattle Seahawks and the 49ers and the Rams. Like, I think they're better than all those teams. And obviously, because the Eagles are kind of so far out, they got to look through the wild card and not win the division, which then obviously technically complicates things a little bit more. But they are up there. They are definitely top 7 team in the NFC. There's just no doubt in my mind in that. And so this was a nice win. But again, to keep it all in context, this season was never about going off of some big playoff run. This year was always about continuing to develop and grow as a team. And of course, most importantly, Jayden Daniels. And this is what I said to you guys in the beginning, where I said, listen, this team is going to change because of Cliff Kingsbury. And listen, Cliff Kingsbury, if he has a lot of success with Jayden Daniels, he is going to be poached as a head coach. And now, surprise, surprise, it's been reported that the Chicago Bears have Cliff Kingsbury as their number one target. And people say, no, he's under contract and stuff like that. And it's like, no, it's not the way it works for coaching. I tried to tell people that. And they're like, no, he doesn't want to go anywhere. He only wants to be a coordinator. That's what he wants. And I was like, no, I promise you, when guys like this, they want another try. No one wants to ever feel that they failed anywhere. And so there's a great chance that Cliff Kingsbury will leave. And again, I who knows, honestly, but this is where you want to kind of soak up as much wisdom and growth and development from Cliff Kingsbury, and also to continue to attract another great coordinator as well. Because this team will be dependent on their offensive coordinators, because Dan Quinn is, of course, a defensive head coach. That has always been the liability, the one drawback of constructing this team. It's the biggest liability when you hire a defensive head coach and have a great young quarterback who's going to be ascending, who needs to actually legitimately be developed. They need to figure out, hey, how do we maximize this quarterback in the NFL? At this point, Patrick Mahomes can go to a defensive team. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, any of these quarterbacks. Don't get me wrong; they all need great, good to great offensive coordinators as well. But at least they know what makes them great already. They're already developed. They don't need a hot shot coordinator. Again, a great offensive OC will help them, but they're not as relying on them at this point in their career. We can see Caleb Williams needs it. We see Bo Nix needs it, right? We see all these quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, they need it. And so that is the drawback with Cliff Kingsbury. So at this now, you got only a handful more of weeks to go within this season. And so this is where you really want to continue to see the growth, the limits pushed a little bit. And that's why it's like, I care much more about Jayden Daniels' development than having the Washington Commanders get into the playoffs and have that. Again, that's all great. And I want that experience, and you want that experience for this team as well, and Jayden Daniels' development. But again, it can't be understated. This is about his development. The faster and quicker Jayden Daniels really becomes established in the NFL, again, look out, man. Look out for this team and look out what they can do. It'll be special. But so, all in all, obviously a great win, 42-19. Anytime you're putting up 42 points, there's no bad way to explain that. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Washington Commanders? It was tough to find stuff. There was nothing on First Things First, nothing on the Herd, nothing nowhere. So this was a tough one. Very frustrating. Nothing on NFL Live. So this is the best I had. But let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.